a 0.7-point increase from the preceding month. Hence, the headline inflation rate for December 2025 stands at 15.15% using 12 months index reference period, where 2025 is equal to 100. But what does this mean for the average Nigerian? And what is this driving trend? Nigeria Today will dive in and take a closer look at the latest inflation rate, highlighting the statistics, looking at the implications and the underlying factors. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Ikaria Clinton. Now with me in the studio for this conversation is Dr. Niyi Akinshiju. He's a chairman, independent media and financial analyst. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria today.
Yeah, pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
And joining us via Zoom is Yushau Aliyu. He's an economist and a public affairs analyst. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria today, Yushau.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
Okay, let me start with you, Dr. Akinshiju. You know, this whole inflation rate, the headline inflation is at 15.2, approximately 15.2% for December 2025. And I remember that earlier that at the middle part of the December, we're giving 14.45 for the inflation rate in November. However, with this 15.2%, the NBC is saying that there's an ease. So I don't understand it. Explain.
All right. I think the whole thing has to do with the statistical method, adopted when the decision was made to rebase the inflation period. Our reference year had always, before that 2024 rebasing, the reference year was 2009. Meanwhile, the global requirement is that every 5 months, 5 years, there should be a rebasing because of changes in trends in what we consume, how we consume. These things determine prices. And not just prices alone, there's also new culture that comes in. There are some things were not taken, between 2000 and 2009, when that basket was established. Between 2009 and 2024, there are new habits that we had cultivated. So we have started buying things that we were not buying in 2009 or even in 2015. So those things that we started buying must also now reflect in the inflation basket. There are certain things we no longer buy, that was part of the 2009 basket. So if we continue to measure them, they will be reflecting in the CPI, and they will actually be showing error. So that is the reason for a rebasing. So it's as if we left our rebasing undone, for more than 10 years, close to 15 years. And that was why it was done in 2024. And in doing it in 2024, because of that large lapse in time for doing it, there was a need to have an approach that is more nuanced, than just the normal one that they'll pick 1 month. Because what you do with inflation rate is to compare year on year and month on month and use a particular month, usually use a particular month to do the basis for comparison. That's the year for the reference, the period reference. So in the case of our rebasing, the NBS peaked December, that of course serve virtually every fiscal outlook in terms of year end and all that. They picked December 2024 as a reference period. But as things were going, they now realize in December 2025 that if they use that period to compare and contrast the CPI figures, it will come out with error. So therefore, there was a need to mitigate possible errors by changing the method. So it's just a method. So rather than have just 1 month in December, they now took the whole months in 2025. 1 month in 2025, they now took the whole
January
January
to December.
2024.
Okay.
2024.
All right.
So now that will be an average. And it gives you the comfort that it's not possible there will be errors.
Okay.
Because it's like taking, if it was 30% in January 2024, it was 25% in July and all that. You add it up and of course divide to get the mean. So it is that mean that now became the 100% with which they are now relating. So because there had been a change from that 1 month reference period to a 12-month reference period, which is to say that they are maximizing that old period, it will of course now reflect in all the figures that 1 month are produced between January 2025 and November 2025. So by adopting the new approach,
or the new methodology,
as it were, it would change the monthly figures. So that is why in November now,
we now have 17.33%
17.3%
as against 14.45%.
Okay. So now we are now seeing a downward trend, in December, to show that actually we are still experiencing disinflation to 15.15. Compared to 14.45 November. So essentially, it's just a reflection of the need to come up with a figure that will not be controversial.
Oh, okay. So, Yusha, all this mathematical explanation, what does it boil down to? When we look at the economy, what is it telling the ordinary Nigerian?
Before I dwell into what an ordinary Nigerian will understand, I have to also add some light in the statistical inference. It is well understood by statistics, the mean, mode, medium approach, and also the basket of goods under survey. The rebasing exercise of 2025 has attempted to increase the number of basket of goods under survey. And if you are making a survey statistically and you take it monthly, then in making a reference, a base year is very important. That base year is what determines either increase or decrease. But however, if you put all the components together and then try to establish a factor that can really explain what the inflation is at a particular time after the rebasing exercise, then definitely people and ordinary should understand that the statistical inference, which was the component that was used, was readjusted. And once you readjusted them, then definitely the figures, if last year, that was 2025 December, inflation was 14.45%, and in November, it was 14.45%, while in December, the figure is now 15.1, and it is now explaining a decrease. Now, the decrease has to do with the component of some goods in the market. That's why the survey critically explained that the reduction based on the inflation was mainly on food items, mostly, because that is where the ordinary man can understand. And if you are to understand to a layman's view, you have to look at the price you bought a tuber of yam in November, and then look at how much you bought a tuber of yam in December, and other components of goods, which was put in the survey criteria. So, but the ordinary man always, he wants to see a reduction in prices. That is what an ordinary man wants to see when inflation decrease is mentioned. He wants to see reduction in prices of goods. And these prices of goods are classified there are food items, there are manufactured goods. You cannot see changes, an ordinary man cannot see changes in the manufactured goods because the rate of interest, which was used by the producers over a period, was stand at 27% of MPR, which translate to the borrowing cost. So therefore, of course, realistically, if inflation decreases, prices decreases, then it means that the purchasing power of individual will relatively increase by that small change in percentage. That's what an ordinary Nigerian should understand about these changes that has occurred between November survey and December survey.
Much, you shall. Dr. Akinsuju, I never knew that the main mode media will come in handy like this while I was learning mathematics back then in school. Maybe I should go back and learn more.
Well, statistics is an everyday existence. And that was why I said average. Once you are talking of average, you are looking at mean, you know. And then, of course, it depends on what you are measuring to deploy your mode, you know. So statistics is it's a social discipline, you know, so which means it's an everyday existence for us.
Yeah, you talked about the basing. What I know what importance does it play in, you know, shaping the economic life, really?
Well, the inflation figures are significant figures. And that is why every jurisdiction look out for it every year. I mean, every month, everywhere in the world, every month, because it determines the fundamentals of the economy. It defines the fundamentals of the economy. For instance, well, Joshua said for the common man. It's not only for the common man. For governments, for the CBN, for the manufacturers, the CPI is as important as any fiscal measure. So, for instance, the CBN waits for the inflation figures to determine the benchmark rates. So, at the time the CBN moved the benchmark rate from 27.5 to 27, it was because there were indications of declining, you know, inflation rates. But at the time when the rate moved from 34 to even 18%. People were thinking that the CBN will reduce even further when it was 14.5, but CBN 14.45. But CBN said, okay, we want to hold on to see what is going to happen. So that tells me that the statisticians in the CBN were also following through with what the MBS was going to do. So I am sure now that the CBN had now seen this figure and will tally with what they have and will also now determine what they are going to do with the MPR. And the MPR is important because once the MPR is reduced or it increases, it impacts interest rates that will be charged, you know, by banks, commercial banks, merchant banks, and all that. It is important. Now, what's the multiplier effect of that? Wherefore there is a reduction in interest rates. It does also mean that manufacturers, producers, and of course service providers too will get credit at a cheaper rate. So where they are charging 35% now, 33%, that is banks, it's likely if even by 100 basis points, the CBN reduces the benchmark rate and it moves from 27 to 26. It will reflect in what the banks will charge. And because the credit cost is lower now, it will also reflect in the cost input of the manufacturers. Going forward, by the time we start talking about 22% MPR, it will start reflecting on prices too, the pricing template. So the average man on the street would also be impacted. You know, so it's a circular thing.
The multiple is a multiplier.
It is. So it's when you look at inflation rate, it also determines even the flow for foreign exchange inflow, because if in a high inflationary environment, foreign investors don't want to come in until they know that they are going to benefit what they call real positive returns, because the instruments, the stock, the bonds and the treasury bills they are going to acquire, if the yield is not up to or above the inflation rate, it is a loss for them. So no foreign investor wants to come into that environment, So it has multiple multiple impact, as it were.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akinshiju. We are going to take a breather here and continue this conversation shortly. Don't go away.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow, under digital economy, for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that are questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we're talking about the latest inflation figure. And I have two experts, one that joined us via Zoom and one here in the studio. Now, Yusha, we've seen from the analysis we got from you and Dr. Akinshiju, it's a welcome development, really. We are doing well, right? So what exactly are we doing right that we should continue?
What we are doing right, one is a monetary policy which try as much as possible to stabilize prices. That's why when you asked me previously, I dwell only on the consequences of understanding the trend by a consumer who is an ordinary Nigerian in particular. But in general terms, the central bank has done very well first of all, in the monetary year 2025, the bank was able to moderate inflation and then prices were able to stabilize. This has to be sustained. That is second. That's the first one. The second one, now in January, this January 2026, the new tax law is effected, and there are possibilities of having additional revenues because the efficiency of fiscal policy is to increase revenue generation. So that angle on how government is sharing everything, there is going to be an increase in liquidity. And the central bank is trying to bring contractionary policy by making MPR at 27. So if increase in liquidity is going to spark additional consumption in the economy, then definitely that availability of funds must be checked. And it can only be checked through different means. One, if we have additional revenue, then we have to also look at other critical sectors of the economy that need to have an attention. And it has to be collective decision by those who are to benefit from the tax revenues, especially the federal government, the state and local government. So that liquidity, that increase in liquidity in disbursement cannot spark additional inflation. The other angle which must also be sustained is that our productive capacity for local food production has to be sustained too. And if it is to be sustained, we need to carefully guide the cost of inputs, because if cost of input is regulated, where farmers can go to farm and expect profit, but normal profit, then we are expecting that also to assist in stabilizing prices. Another angle, which we are not doing it, or we have been doing it but wrongly, 2026 is a political transition period, and we are expecting politicians to start campaigns, and that campaigns will involve a lot of resources. So there is need for monetary authorities, especially after the 31st of March banking recapitalization. We should make sure that politician does not hijack the recapitalization to draw resources for political campaigns. That will greatly assist.
Thank you very much, Yushau. Now, Dr. Akinshiju, of course, he just mentioned something, the political year. Is there any possibility that this period would affect these, results we are getting now in any way?
Well, just like Dirty December. If you're talking Dirty December, there is a huge inflow of money into the economy. And of course, election year is always a tagged, red flagged year, because the expectation is that there will be increase in spending. And of course, when there's increase in spending, the economy tends to react. I don't want to use the word inflationary because it can also be managed. Yeah. But I think to a large extent, the CBN is doing a marvelous job. Already the level of liquidity in the economy is high ordinarily. We are talking of 122 trillion naira. But the difference in what we have now and what we used to have is in substance. Okay. So where before, what we always had was money, credit from CBN, credits from the capital market by the government and all that. So there's a surfeit of liquidity in the economy without substance. But what we have now is substance. The money that is inflowing into the economy is also backed by foreign exchange inflow. It's backed by productivity. It's backed by manufacturing. Because the important thing about liquidity is to have a pillar, to have a base to support it. So now we have a base to support it. So going forward, I don't think the spending of politicians will be that huge to torpedo whatever had been, accomplished now. There's going to be a lot of spending, but those spending are also service related. There'll be spending in advertisements. There'll be spending on printing. There'll be spending on logistics. So they are tied to something. And that's the important thing. And those things, those factors, those sectors are also production-related sectors. So I don't fear when it comes to that. The important thing is that the base from which we are moving into the election year has a productive base. And that is what the Bola Tinubu government had gifted Nigeria. So it's no longer about the hollowness of money just coming into the system without it being tied to substance, to economic substance. So now that we have this, spend your money. Is good that you have printers making more money. It's good that you have television stations. NTA will make more money because of advertising.
I like the sound of that.
Advert insertions. You are owners of trailers, vehicles, transportation will make more money because they will be paying to move them around. Okay. So we can't be specific about where this money will go.
Are going.
It is when you cannot define where the money will go that you become worried and concerned.
Thank you very much, Dr. Niyi Akinshiju, Chairman, Independent Media and Financial Analyst. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure as always. Thanks so much.
And also via Zoom, we had Yushau Aliyu, economist and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being part of this program, Nigeria Today. It airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for being there. I am your carrier, Clinton. Have a wonderful weekend.